Have you ever seen how selfishness can turn against you? Today, I will tell you a powerful story of a clever fox and a kind stork. At first, the fox plays a trick, but in the end, he learns a big life lesson you must not miss. Let's start the fox and the stork.
Long ago, in a beautiful green forest, there lived many different animals. The forest was full of tall trees, small bushes, singing birds, and little rivers that ran with clear water. Every morning, the sun would rise above the forest, filling the land with golden light. The birds would sing sweet songs, the rabbits would hop around, and the squirrels would climb trees looking for nuts. Life in the forest looked peaceful and happy, but not every animal in the forest was kind. Among them lived a fox. This fox was very clever, but he was also very selfish. He had shiny red fur, sharp eyes, and a long bushy tail. From the outside, the fox looked handsome and smart, but on the inside, he often thought only about himself. The fox loved food more than anything else. Whenever he saw something tasty, he wanted it all for himself. He did not like to share, even when other animals were hungry. Sometimes, he even played tricks on his neighbors just to enjoy food alone. One sunny afternoon, the fox sat under a tree and thought to himself, I am the cleverest animal in this forest. Other animals may be strong, tall, or fast, but none of them can outsmart me. If I play my tricks wisely, I can always have food and fun. Why should I share when I can keep everything for myself? Because of his selfish nature, many animals avoided the fox. The rabbit stayed far from him. The squirrels kept to the trees, and even the deer did not trust him. They all knew that the fox was always planning something tricky, but the fox did not care. In his mind, it was not important to be loved. It was more important to be clever and full. One day, while walking near the river, the fox saw a tall bird with long legs and a very long beak. It was the stork. She was white with black wings, and her beak was long and pointed like a stick. She moved gracefully, step by step, through the shallow water, catching small fish. The stork was known in the forest as a kind and gentle bird. She always spoke politely and never hurt anyone. The fox watched her from behind a bush and thought, the stork is new to this part of the forest. She doesn't know much about me yet. Maybe this is my chance to have some fun. I can play a clever trick on her, and it will surely entertain me. The stork noticed the fox and greeted him warmly. "Good afternoon, fox," she said in her calm, gentle voice. "It's a fine day, isn't it?" "Yes, indeed, stork," replied the fox, pretending to be friendly. "The sun is shining, the forest is bright, and it's a perfect day to enjoy a meal with a friend. Tell me, would you like to visit my home tomorrow evening? I will cook something very special for you." The stork, being kind and trusting, felt happy at the invitation. She had not made many friends in this part of the forest yet, so she accepted gladly. "Oh, thank you, fox. That is very kind of you. I would love to join you for dinner." The fox smiled slyly to himself. Inside his mind, he was already planning his trick. The next evening, the stork flew to the fox's home. His house was a hollow tree with a small wooden door. Inside, the fox had set a table with 2 shallow bowls. Each bowl was filled with delicious soup, steaming hot. The fox invited the stork to sit and said, "Please enjoy this meal, dear friend." The stork tried to eat from the shallow bowl with her long beak, but she could not get any soup. The fox, on the other hand, licked his bowl clean in seconds. The fox laughed quietly at his clever trick. The stork felt disappointed but remained polite. "Thank you for the invitation, fox. The soup smells wonderful. Even if I cannot eat it," she said gently. The fox thought he had won, but the stork had a kind plan of her own. A few days later, she invited the fox to her home for dinner. The fox, curious and hungry, accepted without hesitation. When he arrived, the stork had prepared a special meal in tall, narrow vases, perfect for her long beak. The fox could not reach any food and became frustrated. The stork politely ate her meal, enjoying every bite. She looked at the fox and said kindly, "Dear fox, sometimes it is better to share with friends than to play tricks. A meal is more enjoyable when we care for others, not just ourselves." The fox realized that he had been tricked in the same way he had tricked her. He felt a little ashamed, but also understood the lesson. From that day on, the fox tried to be less selfish. He started sharing food with other animals and played fewer tricks. The forest became happier, and the fox gained friends he never had before. The stork and the fox became good friends, teaching everyone in the forest that kindness and sharing are more important than clever tricks or selfishness. And so, life in the forest remained peaceful and joyful, with all animals learning to respect and help one another. The next day passed slowly for the stork. She felt excited about the dinner. She washed her long wings in the river, cleaned her feathers carefully, and even practiced walking gracefully. The thought of a nice meal with a new friend made her happy. As the sun went down, the forest became calm. Birds returned to their nests, and the golden light of evening spread across the trees. The stork stretched her wings and flew toward the fox's home. The fox lived inside a hollow tree at the edge of the forest. His house was small but cleverly decorated with things he had collected: smooth stones, feathers, and pieces of wood. When the stork arrived, she knocked politely on the door with her long beak. "Tock, tock, tock!" The fox opened the door with a big smile and said, "Welcome, dear stork. Please come in and share my food. I have prepared something very tasty for us tonight." The stork stepped inside and looked around. The fox had lit a candle in the middle of the wooden table. The soft flame gave the room a warm golden glow. On the table, 2 shallow bowls were waiting. Steam rose from them, carrying the delicious smell of hot soup. The stork's stomach rumbled. She had been fishing all day and was very hungry. She thought kindly to herself, "Oh, how thoughtful the fox is. He must have worked hard to cook this for me. I am lucky to have such a kind new friend." The fox sat down quickly and said, "Let's eat. This soup is my favorite recipe." He leaned over his bowl and began to lap up the soup with his tongue. Slurp, slurp, slurp. The fox finished half of his soup in just a few gulps. The stork, however, faced a problem. She bent her long beak down to the bowl, but the bowl was too shallow. She tried again and again, but her beak could not scoop up the soup. She could only dip the very tip of her beak into the liquid. No matter how hard she tried, she could not get even a mouthful. The fox pretended not to notice. He licked his bowl clean and smacked his lips. "Ah, delicious. How is your soup, stork? Don't you like it?" he asked with fake concern. The stork raised her head politely. She did not want to be rude. "It smells wonderful, fox," she replied gently, "but I am afraid I cannot drink it from this shallow bowl. My beak is too long." The fox laughed to himself. He was enjoying his trick. "Oh dear," he said, pretending to be surprised. "What a pity. Perhaps you are not as good at eating soup as I am. Maybe you should practice more." The stork felt hurt, but she did not show her anger. Instead, she kept her calm nature. She knew that showing patience was better than fighting back immediately. So she simply smiled and said, "Thank you for inviting me, fox. It was very kind of you. Tomorrow evening, please join me at my home for dinner. I would love to return your hospitality." The fox wagged his tail happily. He thought to himself, "Ha, that was fun. Poor stork couldn't eat a drop. And now she is inviting me to her home. Maybe I will get another free meal tomorrow. What a fool she is." The stork stood up gracefully, thanked the fox once more, and left his hollow tree. As she flew back to her home, she whispered to herself, "Cleverness should not be used to hurt others. Tomorrow the fox will learn an important lesson." The stork returned home and began preparing a clever plan. She arranged her tall, narrow vases on the table and carefully cooked a delicious meal that only her long beak could reach. She smiled, thinking of the lesson the fox would soon learn. That evening the forest remained calm, with soft golden light fading behind the trees. The stork felt proud and ready to teach the fox a lesson about kindness and sharing. The next day arrived with bright sunlight. The fox woke up early, stretching his legs and licking his lips. He remembered the stork's invitation and felt excited. "Another dinner for me," he thought proudly. "This time I will not have to cook. How nice it is to trick others and still get free meals. That stork is too gentle to play tricks like me. I will enjoy her food tonight." The fox spent the whole day boasting to himself. He wandered around the forest telling the rabbits, squirrels, and even the crows that he was invited for a special dinner at the stork's house. Some animals smiled politely, but others shook their heads. They knew the fox too well. Finally, evening came. The stork's home was by the riverside, where tall reeds grew and the water flowed calmly. Her nest was built high on a strong tree, but for her guest, she had prepared a small wooden table on the ground near the water. She decorated the place with flowers and spread clean leaves around, making it look neat and welcoming. When the fox arrived, he was greeted warmly. "Good evening, dear fox," the stork said kindly. "I am so glad you could come. Please sit down. Tonight, I have prepared something special for you." The fox's eyes sparkled with greed. He wagged his tail and replied, "Thank you, stork. I'm sure your cooking will be delicious." The stork placed 2 tall jugs on the table. The jugs were narrow at the top, but deep inside. Steam rose from them, carrying the rich smell of soup, thicker, richer, and tastier than the one the fox had made. The stork dipped her long beak into her jug and began to drink slowly. She enjoyed every mouthful, swallowing the warm soup with delight. The fox, however, faced a problem. He pushed his nose into the jug but could not reach the soup. He tried turning the jug sideways, but the soup almost spilled. He licked the outside of the jug, but there was no taste. He tried again and again, but his short mouth simply could not fit inside the narrow neck of the jug. The fox's stomach growled. He felt embarrassed and frustrated. Meanwhile, the stork calmly continued to drink her soup, not wasting a single drop. Finally, the fox gave up. He sat back and sighed. "Stork, I cannot drink from this jug. My mouth is too short. This is unfair." The stork lifted her head politely and looked at him with gentle eyes. "Unfair?" she said softly. "Do you remember yesterday when you served soup in shallow bowls? My long beak could not reach the soup. But you laughed and finished your meal happily. Today, I have served the food in a way that suits me, just as you did yesterday. Now you know how it feels to be treated with selfishness." The fox lowered his head. For the first time, he felt ashamed. His trick had returned to him like a mirror. What he had done to the stork was now done to him. The stork continued kindly. "Dear fox, cleverness should not be used to hurt others. A good friend always thinks of the other's needs. If we only care about ourselves, one day the same selfishness will come back to us. That is why we must treat others with kindness and fairness." The fox said nothing. His cheeks burned with shame. He realized that his clever trick had backfired. That night, the fox returned to his hollow tree with an empty stomach and a heavy heart. He thought deeply about the stork's words. He remembered how he had laughed at the stork the previous day and understood the pain he had caused. He realized that true cleverness was not in tricking others but in being wise and kind. From that day onward, the fox never played such selfish tricks on others again. He began sharing food and being thoughtful to all the forest animals. The fox and the stork became good friends. Their story taught the forest that kindness, patience, and fairness are far better than cleverness used selfishly. Life in the forest became happier, and all the animals learned the value of treating each other with care. That night, after leaving the stork's home, the fox lay awake in his hollow tree. The forest was silent, but inside his mind there was a storm of thoughts. He remembered how he had laughed at the stork's struggle with the shallow bowl. He remembered how proud he felt when he finished his soup and mocked her politely. But now, when he sat hungry in front of the tall jug, he had felt the same pain, the same helplessness, and the same embarrassment. The fox whispered to himself, "Why did I do that? Why was I so selfish? I thought it was fun, but now I understand how it hurts. The stork could have become angry with me, but instead, she taught me a lesson in such a gentle way. I was wrong, truly wrong." From that day on, the fox changed his ways. He still remained clever, because cleverness was part of his nature, but he stopped using it to harm others. Instead, he tried to use his clever mind for good things, like helping other animals find food or solving little problems in the forest. The other animals slowly noticed the change. The rabbits were not as afraid of him anymore. The squirrels came closer, and even the deer no longer avoided him. And the stork, who had once been his victim, became his true friend. The moral of the story. This story teaches us a very important truth. A selfish act can backfire on you. When we treat others unfairly, it may bring us joy for a short time. But sooner or later, the same unfairness comes back to us. Life is like a mirror. It reflects what we give. The fox thought he was clever by serving soup in shallow bowls. But the same trick made him suffer at the stork's table. In the end, he learned that kindness, not selfishness, is the better path. Life lessons from the fox and the stork. 1. Think of others' needs. True friendship is about understanding the differences of others. The fox had a short mouth, and the stork had a long beak. A real friend would have chosen a way to serve food that both could enjoy. 2. Do not laugh at someone's weakness. The fox laughed when the stork could not eat. But later, he became the one who looked foolish. Life can change quickly, and the roles can reverse. 3. Selfishness is a lonely road. At first, no animals liked the fox because of his selfish tricks. Only when he changed did he find real friends. 4. Cleverness is good only when used wisely. A sharp mind is a gift, but using it to hurt others is wrong. When used to help, it can bring respect and love. 5. Treat others the way you want to be treated. If you want kindness, give kindness. If you want respect, give respect. This golden rule is true for all people and all times. Real-life examples. This fable may be about animals, but it reflects human life too. In school, if one child makes fun of another for not understanding a lesson, later he might struggle with a different subject and face the same embarrassment. Instead of laughing, helping each other brings friendship. At work, if someone cheats or takes credit for another person's effort, one day someone else will do the same to him. Dishonesty and selfishness never stay hidden forever. Even in families, if we always think about ourselves and ignore the feelings of our parents, brothers or sisters, one day, when we need help, we might find ourselves alone. These examples show that the lesson of the fox and the stork is not only for children, but for everyone in life. The forest remained a lively and happy place. The trees still danced in the wind, the rivers still sparkled under the sun, and the birds still sang their sweet songs. But now, one change had happened. The fox had learned the value of kindness. Whenever he saw the stork walking gracefully by the river, he no longer thought of playing tricks. Instead, he greeted her with respect, And the stork, wise and gentle, remained his true friend. So, dear reader, remember this. Cleverness may bring short joy, but kindness brings lasting happiness. A selfish act can backfire, but a kind act always returns with blessings.
This story teaches us that selfishness always comes back to hurt us. Always treat others with kindness and respect. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts. And yes, subscribe for more moral stories every day.